Welcome back everyone to another episode of All About Mechanics. Today is finally going to be Vateshran Hollows, the solo arena from the Markup DLC. Now, of course, if you've played Maelstrom before, you know how it usually works. You have an arena, you have rounds one after the other until you get to the end. Well, not in this particular instance. This solo arena or solo instance is actually multiple different paths that you can choose to take in whichever order you like to inevitably get to a goal at the end. Now we're going to show you all of the bosses, all of the ads, actually every single thing you need to know, including how to get to the secret bosses and how to get those shiny power-ups. If you want to see more of this, stay tuned, it's all going to be explained. Now, like I said in the intro, there are three different paths you can take. There's a nature-esque type one, a green one. There's a Daedra one, which is blue. And then there's a fire one, which is, of course, red or orange, or whichever you want to call it. It's a Daedric portal, basically. Now, there are certain ways that you might want to choose to go, depending on your type of build, whether it's Magicka, Stamina, or whatever. So, I'm going to show you the Magicka variant, of which I would encourage you to take first, because there are certain orders that you can get power-ups in. However, during the video, I'm also going to show you a stamina path, just where to get to the secret bosses and what you do get from doing so. Now, first of all, I've gone into the green area. Again, you can take any order you like, but the difference is each path that you take, the next one will be harder. So if this is a difficult one for you, obviously you want to get it out of the way nice and early. If it's not, then you maybe want to do it later. But the buffs are important. So each different portal will end up giving you a specific bonus, and that gives you the ability to find extra buffs for your character. Now for us, we're going to go for Magicka and health, but there are three essentially. There's Magicka, health, and stamina. You can only ever have two of them, so which way you choose determines which ones you get. Now to start with, you've got these troll here. He's a gate boss. He's very small, but he hits incredibly hard, so you want to stay out of his face. Make sure that you kind of keep him still as much as you can. You might want to go around him in circles a little bit to avoid that stuff. Failing that, you're going to need damage shields and to be very, very careful not to drop your resistance buffs if you have one. Now, these do give you points, but not everything in here gives you points. If you're going for a score run, you need to figure out which ones do and don't give you points towards your score. And, of course, you can avoid some enemies. But, I mean, for the sake of doing everything, we're going to kill all the stuff anyway. These are quite simple. Interrupt them with a big AoE or stay away from them. These guys here, you can kill these or you can stack them on the piggy if you want further down, but the piggy is the gate boss. You basically can't get past the gate boss's blocking mechanism unless you kill them. So, as you can see in the corner there, the gate is blocked. No piggy death, no gate opened. Simple as that. Now him, you want to make sure you get rid of that Spriggan first of all, because otherwise you can't attack him. But once you can, you have to be very careful of this conal AoE effect. Now you can block it if you really want to, but generally he will run straight through you. So what you really need to do is just interrupt it. As soon as you interrupt it, he stops doing it. Most of the time, he doesn't really hit that hard anyway. But of course, just bear in mind, you can use some things to your advantage, whether it be a heal or the Ring of the Petal Order, which really helps in here. So as you can see, once the gate boss is down, we can now go to our first major boss. Now there's a big one at the end of each arena, or each path if you like, but there are other ones in the way. Now this is quite simple. You've got three Spriggans in the middle there showing you the mechanics. You can see all those wispy things just entered your brain. Now, while you have them attached to you, of course, these wake up, and they randomly go from one to the other through the fight. But you don't want to go full ham on this first part, because when he goes through the first couple of mechanics, down to a certain amount of health, which at the moment, as you can see, is around 80%, he will wake up one of the other ones instead and sit down, so you can't harm him anymore. Now this will continue to happen over and over and over throughout the fight. And there will be Spriggans around the room. You have to watch out when they attach a beam to you, but that will happen in a moment. Now, as you can see this, he has attached a beam to me. I had to interrupt him to get it off me. If you don't do that in time, then of course you can't damage the bosses and you have to kill that Spriggan before you can continue. It's pretty much it, really. You've got some wolves in the room, kill them, they don't hurt that much, but you have to watch out for that. That big pound you can either block or dodge roll. The big frontal conal AoE that you saw earlier, that one there, and there's another two that are very similar, you can block those again or dodge roll out of them. And apart from that, it's basically rinse repeat. Block the heavy attacks or dodge roll out of the big horrible shiny stuff like that. Dodge, job done. Hit whichever one is not immune, and keep an eye on the Spriggans. Now, yes, of course, you could go around and kill all the Spriggans individually, then they're not a problem, but to be perfectly honest, all you really need to do is just keep an eye on them. You get a beam on you, go and interrupt it, come back, hit the boss. Or kill the Spriggan and get out of the way. Up to you. Again, make sure you focus your basic mechanics in this one, because if you don't interrupt that, you are going to be in trouble. There is an achievement tied to that where you actually have to kill like 20 of them, but, I mean, that's not important for your first clear. You can worry about your achievements later. Again, as with most of the mechanics videos, I do generally show you how to do all of the mechanics. The achievements are up to you, because there are some things that will vary in there. Some things you have to do a little different. Some things you have to not even kill the boss and just dance around a little bit and get some special features unlocked within the fight. But, as you can see here, it's basically rinse repeat throughout. Block the heavies, dodge roll the big stuff, and only hit the one that is not immune. Now, off to the left here, there is a buff of sorts, but we'll come back to that later at the end of the video. Failing that, you can hit the timestamp in the description. That'll take you straight there to the stamina mini-boss, or secret boss if you like. But anyway, here is where we start introducing a new mechanic. We've got grappling hooks, which you may have seen in previous DLCs. There's some in the stories, and there's also one in Unhallowed Grave, the dungeon. But basically, you aim at it with your crosshair, roughly in the vicinity of it. You don't have to be very, very accurate. You just need to make it pop up. And then you hit the button and slide across the gap. Now, that's very, very important, because that, while we deal with these ads, they're quite basic. You just put dots down and hit them. Just stay out of their face, because they do put fire across the floor. Now, each location has its own unique buff or skill. And that grappling hook is what we have here. Just bear in mind, by the way, this little gate boss dude here, you can kind of jump past him, but it's not really worth it. You might as well kill him. Very simple. Big punches, big AoE in front, watch the stuns. If he stuns you, you got to break free, otherwise he's going to punch you really hard. Not too threatening, but just make sure you stay out of his face. Anyway, here's the grapple hook again, getting further to my point. This is required to get through this arena, but it also is unlocked for you permanently once you have completed it. Meaning, if there are any other arenas that do have grapple hooks in them, if you've done this arena first, you can then use them. Now, if you do go into another arena before this one and you haven't unlocked the grapple, then obviously you can't use it. And that's the trick. That's the tactic where you have to kind of figure out for you and your build which arena you should really do first in order for you to unlock the secrets. If you want the secrets, that is. Now again, we've got what I like to call a gate boss. We have several of these, so don't worry too much. They're not really, really powerful, but you are going to have to deal with them before you can get to the next phase. So don't be too scared by these. It's the big bosses you really want to worry about. These are quite basic. This dude here just puts out frontal AoE and attacks that can stun you, and of course he teleports across the room. All you really need to do is just block the big stuff and stay out of his face if he goes across the floor. As you can see here, he's charging, get out of the way, turn around, carry on again. Now, a couple of the gate bosses do have nasty heavy attacks. You just have to make sure that you are blocking those, or at least dodging them. If you do that, you won't have too much of a problem. Now, as you can see here, we're using the grapple again to get up to the boss, and this one is tough for people that don't pay attention to base mechanics. Interrupts are key here. So, bring the boss in, put him next to the grappling post if you can. It doesn't really matter where, but make sure you watch out for his heavies and his charges, because you're going to want to get out of the way. At 90%, he's going to jump across to the other side, and you have to follow him with the grapple hook. Don't fall. Now, when he heavy attacks, dodge it or block it. Blocking really hurts. Dodging it means you don't get hit at all, and just keep hitting him. His basic attacks are not that rough, but he will start transforming to a different element once he gets to the next phase, which is 80%. Now, as you can see here, he is glowing a certain color, and he does a charge. Get out of the way of that. And that basically means if he is on the same side as the color he currently is, he's immune. So if he's glowing blue or white or whatever, then you mustn't have him on the blue areas because he's immune. If he's glowing red, you mustn't have him on the red areas. And this is where it gets tricky. So maintain your composure here, keep up your resources, and just keep hitting him. But dodge roll the heavy attack if you can, or block it, and make sure you stay out of the way of his path. Now, when this happens, you'll see there's 4 enemies around the room that need interrupting. You'll go around the grapple, one after the other, and bash them and or crush and shock them, or whatever you've got to interrupt with. During that time, you will get ads on some of the platforms that you may want to get rid of because they do hurt. But essentially, once they're all interrupted, you're relatively safe as long as you've got him on the right platform. As you can see, he's glowing red or orange, which means we need him on the blue one. If he was blue, we need him on the orange one. And it's rinse repeat from there. However, just so you know what is going on with the interrupt mechanics, while those guys are channeling, if you don't interrupt them quick enough, you will get in trouble, because the platforms that are all getting fired at will be caked in meteors, and you will not be able to stand on them because the whole platform will set fire. Now, there is a trick where you can only interrupt a couple of them and leave one spare. I'll glaze over that one in a moment because that one's a little bit advanced. One thing to really note, of course, is that when the Minotaur jumps, because he will chase you from one platform to another, there's the fire, stay away from it, he will knock you over. So you must block as soon as you land on a new platform. As you can see, he'll always jump to you. He will always try and stun you. You must be blocking. And as you can see on the left-hand side here, we deliberately interrupted only 2 targets. And you can see that 2 other platforms are covered in fire. If you miss most of the interrupts, and you're going to have nowhere to run. Or you might end up on a platform where he's immune and you're just you and him and nothing else you can do. So bear in mind, you have to make sure that he's on the opposite platform to his color. Bear in mind, you have to interrupt and always block when you land on a platform because he's going to jump on your head. That is rinse repeat throughout the whole fight. Don't get execute panic and start doing stupid shit when the health is low. Just keep to those mechanics. If you do that round or arena later, he does have a lot more health. He is a lot harder, but the mechanics are the same. Now, we're going to go to the blue area here, just because obviously I know where this is going to go. But we are going to take advantage of our grapple, which we unlocked in the previous arena. Remember, every arena or every path has its own unique bonus or skill that you can take advantage of. So it's very important that you decide which one you want to go for first, if you're going for the specials or the buffs or whatever you want to call them. That's if you're going for them, which I really do recommend. If you're a stamina build, you might want to go a different path. If you are a tank, perhaps, you might want to go a different way. Yes, you can do it on a tank. It takes a bit of practice, but you can. There's lots of different ways to go. It depends on how you are as a player and what you need. Now, this gate boss, Mavis here, needs interrupting instantly. If not, she will put out some nasty frontal AoE stuff and you will die very, very quickly. She can pin you in the air, which you need to break free from. She can do that stuff in front of you. And also, she will spawn loads and loads of bubbles that you can see there. If you kill them, it's fine. Or if you kill her first, it's fine. But if you fail to do both, then of course the orbs will reach her and she will heal. So be very careful of that. The Ograms do charge at you, but you can be knocked over. They can be CC'd and such, so it's quite handy if you've got stun abilities. But they're not too strong. They don't have a lot of health. All this is trash, which really shouldn't kill most people. It's the bigger stuff that generally will. Now here, this is where we get to use our grapple. If we didn't have the grapple, we couldn't go down this path. It wouldn't be allowed. So we did that on purpose. We deliberately preempt that first round to get this bonus. And for doing so, we have a shiny at the end of this path, basically. Don't fall in the ditch because it'll put you back to the beginning again. But it's very straightforward. Look for the grapple points and just travel to them. Yes, of course, if you're very quick, you can spin your camera and go from one to the next to the next. But if not, just stand on the platform, wait and compose yourself and then get to the next. As you can see here, there is a purple and or blue. It's purple. It's supposed to be a blue orb with a purple aura. But that there, once you picked it up, you now have access to the blue buffs. Now, what do they do? We glazed over it briefly. Each one you pick up, and there is a maximum of 5, you will gain 1k Magicka for every single one you pick up. However, the initial one, just opening it up, making it all available for you, will also give you 5k in total. So, whichever path you take determines which stat you increase, and how many of the secret ones you pick up determines how far it will go. Now, the orbs are quite obvious to spot, but sometimes they are hidden behind things that you wouldn't normally look behind. So you always have to look up in some of the cubby holes, big platforms that are up above you and stuff that you wouldn't normally look at, just in case. And also on the secret bosses, yes, there are secret bosses. Secret bosses don't give you a score, but they do drop loot, they do count towards achievements, and sometimes the orbs can be hidden there too. So if you're blitzing through this, you might miss some. But if you take your time, you could pick them all up and it can help you a lot on the last boss. So overall, you can only have 2 major buffs at the same time, which are one of the blue, green, or red ones. You have 2 of them. But essentially, each one can max out to 10k. So you could have 10k max Magicka, 10k max stamina, or 10k max health, 2 at a time, in any order you like. Now on this particular run, we're going to take the Magicka and the health. On my Stam DK, I take the stamina and the health. And on my tank, my Nature's Bounty build, I actually take the stamina and the Magicka, believe it or not, because I just buff those 2 stats instead, because he's already got masses of health. But the choice is yours. Based on the route that we're taking, this particular arena right now is elevated in difficulty, or escalated in difficulty because this is the one after the previous. If you do this one first, it's very, very simple. If you do it second, it's a bit harder. If you do it last, it's much harder. So each arena in order of 1, 2, or 3 will be progressively more difficult depending on which order you do them in. As you can see there, 5k Magicka plus the one for each orb you pick up. This boss is quite straightforward, but it does hit hard. This summoner dude here needs to die, but so does his massive Malcolm minion over there. Now, they can be killed individually if you choose to, but each one has their own unique mechanics, and it will get progressively harder because if you kill one before the other one will heal up, and you'll have to fight them basically all over again. And they can enrage as well, which really, really hurts. But the trick to this, apart from dealing with the adds when they come in, is to hold them together. See that big smash there? That big Malcolm smash? You don't want to get caught by that. But once the summoner tries to protect himself in the shield, as you can see there, if you keep Malcolm very close to him, he will punch the ground again and break that shield. Now the trick to this is to make sure that he's in there. He'll both be stunned, or he'll be stunned, and the other one will just kind of stand still for a couple of minutes, being a bit dumb. And you should be able to kill them both at the same time if you've got lots of damage. If you haven't got lots of damage, it's not the end of the world. Just kill whichever one you preference first, and then move on to the next. Typically, I tend to go for Malcolm first because he doesn't really have to have any interrupt mechanics, but the summoner does. So, regardless of which way round you take this fight, make sure that you do have plenty of AoE because the adds will keep running in and trying to blow you up. And make sure you do interrupt the summoner whenever he is channeling because it really does hurt. Now this is your get out of jail quick section. You are in a timed path or prison or whatever you want to call it now, where you have to battle through this gauntlet to the end. Now you could kill these all and you can get points and XP and all that good stuff, or you can just run to the end. It's entirely up to you, but you have a timer on your buffs there. Now the purple one, 2 in from my outside ones, it's now on the end. That goes up and down unless you do that. If you miss the synergy, then it will run out and you get kicked out. If you take the synergy, however, that timer increases and it adds seconds to it. So that's what you need to do while maintaining your survival, and while running through here killing stuff. If you choose to kill things, you need to keep an eye on that buff on the end there, because if it runs out, you get sent back to the beginning. So pace it, get it down quite low, take the synergy and take the extra seconds again, and it will give you more time in here. If you pick them all up too early, then you're going to be in trouble, so don't do that. It will just overwrite the last one. Once you get to the end, hit the chain, and the bridge will magically mend and you can run across it. This is going to happen multiple times in this arena. You're going to see loads of those, in fact 4 I think, and if you don't do them, you can't progress. So pay attention to those, and also remember you have picked up your blue buff, you have got your extra Magicka, and now you should be looking out for those orbs. So if you haven't spotted any already, keep your eyes peeled just in case. There could have been anywhere between 2 and 3 already. Obviously we haven't seen any yet. This guy here needs to be interrupted when he's channeling, and needs to dodge or block his heavy attacks. He's quite straightforward, but he does hit very, very hard. If you get stunned and other adds are in the room, you are going to get hurt a lot, so be very, very careful with those. Tiny trash adds there, deal with those, they're not a problem. This guy here, very simple, make sure you stay on the interrupts. As you can see there, that ice attack he tried to put on you does hurt, it will immobilize you, but if you interrupt it, it doesn't happen. This, however, is a problem. This is a mechanic teaching you about the boss coming up at the end. This eye here will debuff your armor, and you'll get hit very hard by anything trying to hit you. If you get rid of it, of course, that curse goes away. Now, that is going to be on the major boss in this arena, and you are going to have to get rid of it, but there is going to be a mechanic that will help you get rid of that quickly so you don't die so fast, or at all. You have to focus them. Now, this dude here, he is a gate boss of sorts. He does hit very hard. You will need to interrupt him if he starts pounding his chest, but, little spoiler, if you wanted to, you could just run straight for that portal and completely bloody ignore him. That's entirely up to you. We're down the pathway again, a different one this time. Block that heavy attack from the Nightblade when he goes invisible, because otherwise you will get stunned, and also interrupt that because that'll stun you too. But keep an eye on your buff timer on the bottom there, the purple one. Now, we've took the synergy, we've got it again for another 15 or so seconds. That means that we don't stand here and fight this forever and ever and ever. If we do find that our time is going quite low, you need to leg it and go and press the next synergy. It's quite far away, as you can see here. Again, if you do kill these things, you do get extra bonus points for some of them, but not everything. Here is your first orb. We've just now got some extra Magicka, but we need to maintain our time. So we're going to go for the kill for the Harvester. If we don't make it in time, we've got a couple seconds left. We're just going to say sod it and bolt for that chain so we can get out of here and not keep getting reset. Remember, the quicker you are, the higher your score. But again, if you're going for the completion, the score is not the important part. So take as long as you need. If you want to kill them all, kill them all. If you don't, just run for the chain. Again, new bridge built. Remember, we have 4 more orbs remaining. So this is going to be quite handy for us if we can find them along the way. And as you can see there, bold as hell, standing right in the middle, there is an orb for us. Nice. So we've now got 2 of them. That is a 5k plus another 2k on top. So we've actually got a total of 7k extra Magicka right now. But there's a secret off to the side. Remember, we got that grapple? Good. You cannot get to this boss without this grapple. There is a mini boss, or a secret boss. This one is quite straightforward, but it does hit quite hard. And as you can see here, there is another orb here, and there's one on the other side. So if we didn't come this way, we would have missed those. So do you go for your really fast score run, or do you go for the extra buffs? And that is the choice area that you have in here. Now, we need to get through this path to unlock the bridge. This is a quite straightforward one. There's not too much of any real danger in here. Again, you can just pick up the synergy and run until the time runs out and pick up the next one, and then just run to the chain. Or you can kill everything and just try and maintain that timer so that it doesn't actually run out before you fail to kill them, because that can happen too. Every time you fail, you will be reset to the beginning, but don't worry, their health will stay the same, so you can go through them multiple times if you really need to. Yank the chain out the other end, bridge is mended. And as you can see, there's number 4 over there. The 4th orb for us, that's a whopping 9k in total. We've got, I think I miscounted a moment ago. No, we have 4. So we actually have 9k in total. 5k from the first pickup, and then 4 from the extras. Now, this boss doesn't exist to you if you don't have the chain. So that's the only way to see him. Now, basically, you can go for a splat-out nuke if you really want to, depending on your DPS. But if you don't have the DPS, of course, you do have to play mechanics. So the boss will teleport into the gate over there, and he'll have a nice spinny ad that you need to kill, or you can avoid him and jump into here. The choice is yours, but you're going to have to deal with him nonetheless throughout the fight. Now, he will do a spread and AoE that you want to get out of, so be very, very careful. And then you just need to focus on avoiding those Lich crystals that land on the ground. The ad does give him buffs and stuff, so you do need to be careful with those. Once you push him health-wise, he's done his rotation, then of course you go out into the room again. Now, if you didn't kill the ad, you're still going to have to deal with it. If you did kill the ad, then of course you have a different one. But while that happens, the portal will appear and you go into the next room. There's 2. It'll go backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. This one is the one that counts the most. These crystals in the room here, you need to kill them. If you don't kill them, he will heal from them a lot. So you do not want them on the ground. Once they're down, it doesn't matter how long it takes you, you will inevitably kill him, but you have to get rid of those crystals on the ground. Now again, every time this ad is dead, you will get another one. But he will try and distract you from the portal, so you can either kill him and get in the portal, or just jump in and come back to him later. The order that you do this in is entirely up to you, just make sure you maintain your survival. Every time he teleports, he's going to try and drag you in, do the big burst, put the Lich crystals on the ground, and you just have to do a little dance to avoid them. Now, remember, every second teleport, he will actually have different crystals on the ground. There'll be totems. You must kill them because he will heal. Now, the shiny part of killing the secret bosses. No, you do not get score points for them, but you do get a bonus. So for killing him, every time we go through the portals now, any portals, he will be with us, helping us kill things. We've basically just unlocked a pet for a very short period of time. And that is actually very helpful when it comes to the next boss, because the next boss has portals in the fight, much like the grapple arena had grapples in the last fight there too. So your buff or bonus or effect or whatever's going on during the arena is there on the last boss as well. Now, we just need to break the cover here, or the curse or spell or whatever you want to call it, so that we can put that bridge back down. Run through here, kill the Banekins. They're very, very tiny anyway, really small. And make sure you maintain your buff, your synergy there. As you can see, the synergy effect does have a symbol on it, and that's the same as what is in your buff or debuff timers at the bottom there. So just make sure you know which one that is. Generally, it's the one on the end, unless you have buffs and debuffs from yourself. So if you look at the buff timers now, right on the end, I did mention this earlier, once you take it, of course, you can see that I've got 2 buffs on the end there that are mine, and it's the third one in from the right. That's the one you're looking at. Do not let that go to 0. This dude needs interrupting and blocking, so be very careful of him. But if you can kill him within the timer, great. If not, just yank the chain and you're good to go. Now, I don't know if you spotted it there, but we got very lucky with our locations for the orbs, because right by the door to the boss, there is an orb, which we're going to pick up and give us our final buff for the blue buffs, meaning we've got a total of 10k extra Magicka, which scales us up dramatically, which is helpful because the enemies have been scaled up. This boss is simple. Fight him in the face. If he channels, make sure you interrupt him to start with. That ring of death up there, we're going to go there in a moment. When I say to start with, we're going to utilize his interruptible during the fight, and we're not going to interrupt it, but we'll wait until the eye spawns first. You will see that in a moment. You can block his hits here if you really need to, but just bear in mind, of course, if you do this as a second round or the third round, there's the interrupt, he will hit harder and harder and harder, so you might want to play range for some builds, depending on which way you went around this. When the portal spawns, get in, go upstairs, and kill these eyes because they're making nasty, nasty disco beams down at the ground, and they will hurt. You kill these, you go back down, happy days. But as you saw there, our little minion, see the pet there? He came with us because we did the secret. So he is going to help us kill those eyes up there anytime we go into the portal. Now, the eye downstairs, the big ICU debuff eye, we need to make sure that the boss is facing it. So his interruptible mechanic, we just dodge roll it, and it will go straight through the eye and almost kill it. If you try to kill it, it's going to take you a while, but if you let him aim at it, then of course it takes off a massive amount of health, and you can manage it a lot easier. Interrupt him all the time that there isn't one of those eyes in the room, but when there is an eye in the room, make sure he's facing it. All you have to do is have a well-placed dodge roll, and you'll be fine. Now again, the portals come up, the disco beams are going everywhere. Every single time you get a new eye, there'll be more and more disco beams up there, and it'll get progressively difficult. And you don't want this too full of enemies. So you can stay down there for as long as you really like to, but I would encourage you to get up there quite quickly and get rid of these. Just nuke this phase and get it out of the way. Now, once you've killed them all, go back downstairs, unless he pulls you down beforehand. As you can see, our minions helping us there, which is quite handy. And then just rinse, repeat. You don't need to change any mechanics here. Put your back to that eyeball, make sure he's facing it. When he does his interruptible, make sure he does hit the eye with it and just finish it off. Nice and easy. And then maintain your rotations or whatever it is you're doing. Nothing from here changes. Go upstairs, kill the eyes, come back down, aim him at the other eye, carry on, hit him again. Repeat, 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 repeat. There is no need for execute panic. There's no need for you to change what you're doing. There's no need for you to suddenly start spamming loads of extra special moves, because it won't help you. Stick to the basic mechanics, you will be just fine. The only thing that does escalate, of course, is that the eyeballs are upstairs, the watchers, there are going to be more and more and more of those the longer the fight takes, so you might just have to go up there a few more times. Now, the last arena, the fire one for us, again, you can do them in any order. With this being round 3, these are going to hit really hard, because they have scaled dramatically to consider that we have chosen this as our final path. Now bear in mind, we have got the grapple, and we also do have the portal. The portal is now with us all the time, and because we did the secret, we also have the pet. So if we go through any portals from now on, we will have him with us, which is very, very handy. Now, these ads here, you can deal with them before the portal or after. It's entirely up to you. Just bear in mind, of course, if you deal with them afterwards and you've already aggroed them, then you may end up in a load screen coming out of the portal where they're already hitting you. So, I mean, you can completely ignore them if you're quick, but if you want to kill them before you go in. Now, it can help if you have some chain abilities on, but they're not 100% necessary. You can just move backwards and let them come to you, because these ones are ranged. Don't stand in their circle of death when they die, because they explode, and watch out for the clan fears, because they do jump and knock you down. You've got to block those. Now, inside this portal here, our minion came with us, you will see that there are familiar synergies. Like the previous round, you have to pick this up and it'll give you a timer. If you don't get to the next one on time and pick it up, then of course the timer will run out and you will have to start from the beginning again. Now, prior to current patches, the ones that we're in now, so Blackwood and onwards, this you could damage shield all the way through. As you can see now, I'm basically just damage shield with synergies picked up and jumpy jump jump. That's safe. You can't do that anymore. What you need to do is just wait a couple of seconds on each rock and wait for the debuff to go away. Otherwise, you're going to die. So You pick up the synergy, stand on a rock, wait for the fire to go off, stand on another one, wait for the fire to run off, and so on and so forth. You just take your time. But don't take too long, because if the time runs out, you're screwed. As you saw there, we picked up the red health orb and got out. The red health orb gives us 5k health. And access to the 1k health buffs that you will pick up along the way. So again, they can be hidden in some really obscure places, or they might be painfully obvious. Gate boss, Jeff needs to die. Do not stand in his face, and if he puts on Magma Shell, you are in trouble, because he's going to do a lot of fire damage to you. Keep your buffs up, maintain your heals, be aggressive with him. You want to get him down. Yes, of course, if you've got low deeps, it's going to take you a bit longer. Don't panic, just make sure your survival is up there. These, if you're going for certain scores and all the rest of it, you don't have to kill every single thing. You can actually drag everything to the gate boss and just kill the gate boss, and everything else will disappear. But that's a very risky tactic. So if you're doing this for the first time, I'd advise you to pull these individually and kill them at your own pace. Don't try and go too fast, because you're going to get overwhelmed. Watch out for the fire on the ground, of course. You don't want to stay in that. That comes from the scamps. And then you've got the flame atros in the corners that you can also manage. There can sometimes be an orb there, one up there, and then one in the middle as well. So keep your eyes peeled for those when you're walking past, especially in the lava, because it's quite tricky to see. But there will be a bonus coming up which will help you get the ones that are in the lava. And that's coming up after the next boss. So, be aggressive with Jeff. If you can save your ultimate for the boss, then so be it. But if you are just really going for the clear and you have trouble with Jeff and he does really, really hurt you, the fire gets you, the flame gets you, all that stuff there that you're getting all at once is just horrible. Just drop a Destro on him, or a nuke of some description. Any ultimates that you've got, even if it's a survival ultimate, just use it on him and get rid of him. Now, this evil Firefly from Hell people have a lot of issues with, but I'm going to show you how it's not that bad. Now, of course, if it's the third round that you've chosen, this one is at its peak. It's the strongest it can be. Keep your damage on it, and stay out of that frontal AoE that you just saw. Quite straightforward to start with. However, during the fight, as you can see, there's a portal at the back, and there's also fire coming down from the sky. The fire is coming from the scamps. You saw that mechanic a little while ago. So what do you need to do? Kill the scamps. They're going to be coming out of that portal left, right, and center. They don't have a lot of health, but get rid of them quickly. And of course, you've got the Iron Atro there, what you also need to kill. But when you kill him, he drops something on the ground. As you can see, there's a fireball. If you aim the fireball at the boss, get rid of the scamps, they're important, then of course you will stun her. And that meteor thing coming out of the ground, which she used when she teleported, no longer hits you, and she can be stunned. That's your window of opportunity to go for a nuke or to recover. So if you need to get resources back, do it. If not, make sure you can go for a bit of a burst. In the meantime, it's rinse, repeat. So, kill the Flame Atro, or the Iron Atro, in fact, to get the synergy to pin the boss. Deal with the scamps as and when you can, and watch out because you will get a Jeff in the room during the fight now. The lower the health, obviously, the more crazy this gets. There's going to be waves of fire going across the room that you need to dodge or block or try to survive, and you got to kill Jeff because he's going to set you on fire. He's not very strong in comparison to the gate bosses, but he is an inconvenience, so you want to get rid of him quick. If you want the boss to not hit you, if you want to get rid of that volcano, kill the Atronach, kill the scamps to prevent all the fire happening, and make sure you watch your feet at all times. Here again, even at the end, stun the boss, and it's nice and easy. Now, technically, you can just put it on top of the volcano and it'll get rid of it, but if you get the boss at the same time, she's stuffed. So very, very handy tactic to pay attention to there. You don't have to use that mechanic if you want to go for a full nuke, but I'd highly recommend it because, honestly, you're just making it more difficult if you don't. That is entirely up to you. Now we've got our new mechanic, our final one. Heavy attack this while looking at it and make sure you're close enough, and you can run in the lava. Which means, yes, you can pick up these nice health bonuses. But if you look very carefully on my buff timers on the right-hand side, there is a fire buff. That is your protection. If it runs out while you're in the lava, you're dead. So, wait for it to come back. It does come back a couple of seconds or so after it's already run out. Your buff, that is. And you can use it again. Run across the lava. You can kill this Atro if you really want to, or you can just run past it. It's entirely up to you. But you don't want to hang around in this lava for long because there's just enough time for you to get to each area safely. And once you get there, there's usually another ball on the ground for you to pick up. As you can see, there's a health orb in the corner that we're now going to pick up by walking really cool backwards into it. Very handy. And again, you can kill these or just pick up the buff and run. It's entirely up to you. If you want to play safe, just kill everything and stay alive. Don't make things too complicated. Don't get chased by loads and loads of stuff while trying to be clever. Make sure that's a clean, full heavy attack that pops at the end, and you must be close enough. If you do it at range, it's not going to work properly. Now you've got a Jeff. Two options: fight him normally and avoid his attacks, or nuke him with some ultis. Entirely up to you. I would recommend holding your ultimate if you can, but if you are struggling for damage, or he's just hitting you too hard and you're spending more time surviving than anything else, that's when you want to drop your ultis on him. Again, you can get some red orbs in here if you're lucky. We haven't been so lucky. Heavy attack this to get to the next platform. Now this is where it gets really tricky, because big old Chunder boy over there, the giant skeleton, that one's worth some points. He's worth 15,000. He's not technically a secret boss, but he is somewhat of a mini boss in between all the rest of the mess that we've got. So you want to bring him in, or you can deal with these adds here and then go get him later. It's entirely up to you, whichever you're more comfortable with doing. Just bear in mind, he hits incredibly hard. Big stomp there that you've got to avoid. The adds, if they're not already dead, will pepper you with lightning attacks, and he spawns loads and loads of skeletons. So be very, very careful. Take your time. There's no rush. There is no execute phase. There is no panic as far as his health is concerned. If it takes you 10 minutes to kill him, take 10 minutes to kill him. Just make sure you don't die. He's worth a lot of points. Plus, of course, you want to know how these mechanics work, so take your time on it. And then once you get really good at it, then you can go for a bit more of a nukey approach. It's entirely up to you, though. Once you've got him down, you've then got this ball in the middle, which, of course, you've seen already, you take to protect yourself while standing in the lava. Bear in mind, of course, you can hit that in the fight and stand in the lava. It's fine. And we're not going to the right. We're going to the left, because we're going to go and get the secret boss. There is a secret boss here that you can only get if you have this mechanic, which we already have because we're in here, and if you've already done the Daedra round prior. Remember, in the Daedra round, you had to have the grapple in order to get to the secret boss. Well, in this one, you need the portal in order to get to the secret boss. As you can see over there, there's a portal on the ground on the right-hand side. So we have to get this lava running buff and the portal to get in there. Now, the boss itself is not that bad. The mini bosses are quite, or the secret bosses even, are quite simple. But, I mean, you do have to watch your feet. You are going to get set on fire. It is going to bloody hurt, so be careful. So, hit this button, which you cannot get to without the portal, and then backtrack a little bit and go and get this buff. Remember, you can't protect from the lava with shields and shit anymore. You have to make sure that you stay safe. Now, it's basically a giant iron atronach. And you're on an island, and he will teleport around the room and put nasty AoEs on the ground. That's the simplified version of it. As long as you keep your feet clean, you should be okay. But there is, of course, a lava ball in the middle, which you can take advantage of. So if you want to, you can stand in the lava to get safe from other AoEs if there is just too much going on. He will walk around the room a lot, not teleport, walk even, and he will spray out all this nasty comet-type lava, which you do have to avoid. The room can get a little overwhelming, so you will have to be careful and make sure you've got plenty of heals. Don't stand in his face, because those will hurt. But, again, if you pick up the lava buff, you can stand in the lava and fight him, and then you won't have to deal with that unless he's facing you. And it will also protect you against some of his attacks. So it's a kind of healthy buff to pick up, not just there for you to get out after you've killed him, but to use actively in the fight if you choose to. It's very, very nice indeed, and it's not the first time you're going to do that either. You are going to use this on the last boss of the fire round also. So definitely take advantage of this. It's not a necessity, you don't have to, you can just watch your feet, but it's very, very handy to have so you can stand in the room and use more of the space that you have without having to restrict yourself to that central point. Apart from that, it's pretty much rinse repeat. Pick up the buff, stay away from his face if you don't have the buff, and try and stay away from that if you do, but essentially just keep hitting him, move around the room when he does, don't stand in stupid. He doesn't get any more difficult than that. If you can get him from 100% to 10%, you can get him from 10% to 0. There's no need for execute panic, there's no changes at execute, just keep doing what you're doing. And that is essentially how the whole arena works. Every single boss has their own unique mechanics, but they never change. There are very few additions to the ends of the fights. The only one you'll really see any major difference to is the last boss, and that, again, technically doesn't change. It just adds more of the mechanics combined. So at the beginning it'll be very basic, at the end it'll be very complex, and which way you approach that is entirely up to you. But there's no execute phase where something drastic will happen if you don't have enough DPS. You can just maintain your mechanics and keep doing what you're doing from 100% all the way to 0 without actually changing anything. Now, you have to take these obviously to get back, and we're going to go back to the central point where we saw that massive giant skeleton. And then we're going to take the proper path away from the secret boss. And we're going to the last boss of this arena. But before then, we have a bit of a Mega Jeff. He's not massive, but he hurts like hell. And what doesn't help is he's got ads around him. The scamps make fire go on the ground. They hit really hard. The wizards or Daedra or Dramora, whatever you want to call them, they hit quite hard, especially from range. So you've got to be really careful of those. If you want to make this nice and simple for yourself, you can deal with all the ads first and then deal with Jeff later. You can even hide behind this rock so they have to come to you because they can't see you. And then in the meantime, just maintain your survival. It doesn't matter how long it takes you to do this. Just make sure you don't die. Keep your buffs up. Keep your heals up. If you want to drop an ulti, drop an ulti. But if you can save it, then it will help you on the last boss if you know what you're doing anyway. Once it's dead, once everything's dead, in fact. Note, by the way, if Jeff dies first, the rest disappear. He's a gate boss. The ball is usable. You can heavy attack and then run past and go and get the boss. Yes, there are orbs that can spawn here, and they can even spawn the other side of the room in here in these double portal areas, which you'll see in a moment where the ads spawn from. They can even go all the way over there. Now, this boss is easy. Don't panic. So, first of all, he'll do light attacks and a breath. Get out of the breath. Otherwise, you'll have a nasty dot on you, which I've got now. Big cone, stay out of it. The next attack will be this. Get out. What you can do is you can follow it around in a circle if you want, or you can stay ranged like I am right now, and it won't reach you. Yes, he will still hit you with the individual attacks, but the flames won't touch you. Now, once that's over, he's going to come in and light attack again. Then he's going to do another breath. So it's breath, swirly, swirly, breath. Nice and simple. Once the second breath is over, look for that ball, heavy attack it to protect you against the lava floor. Bear in mind, of course, that Geyser is going to go into one of the 3 corners of the room that has a circular concrete part to it. Make sure you pay attention to those because they're going to be full of fire. Once they're all full, he'll enrage and have a meltdown. But 65% health, he will bring in a giant skeleton with loads of little ads, so you want to try and kill them if you can. You can stack the boss on top of him and deal with it that way, or you can just separate them and carry on from there. But bear in mind, these mechanics are the same. After the fire phase is gone, which you saw a moment ago where you protect yourself, it's breath, then this swirly swirly, then it's going to be breath again, then he's going to stab the floor again. So it's breath, swirly, breath, floor. Breath, swirly, breath, floor. And that never, ever changes. There's the breath. Here's the floor. After the heavy attack, watch out. He does heavy attack occasionally, be careful. Hit that, you're protected. Now you go for him, or you go for the ad, it's entirely up to you. I would recommend making sure you get rid of that ad. You don't have to fight it at range, you can just bring it into the room. But what's the boss going to do next? Because he's finished with the floor? Breath. Don't stand in front of it, it will hurt. Now as you can see here, there's fire in the corner. There's fire in the other corner. And there's one on the left-hand side here. So, if you nuke him from here on out, it doesn't make a difference. But if he does another floor mechanic, and you already have 2 flames in the room, like we do, then he will, like I said earlier, enrage. And that will mean that he will make loads and loads of fire AoEs go across the room, and you have to really wiggle to watch your feet, because it's kind of a Space Invaders moment where you have to go left, right, left, right, left, right to get out of all the stuff. Now, the way to avoid this is not just to pick this up and survive the lava, but what you can do is if you have this effect on you, you can actually run into that fire over there in the corner. If you collect it, you will basically extinguish it. If you don't extinguish the fires, this will happen. And then he'll try and heavy attack you afterwards. And then the fight is rinse, repeat again and again and again. If you always extinguish the fire, it doesn't matter how long it takes you. You can fight this guy for 20 minutes just repeating his mechanics if you want. It's breath, swirly, breath, floor. Breath, swirly, breath, floor. It never, ever changes. The only thing that's different, of course, is that the fire needs to be extinguished. Otherwise, you'll have that enrage mechanic. And as you saw there, you can avoid it quite easily. Now, before we approach the final boss, I'm going to backtrack a little bit to the Piggy Gate boss in the green arena. And I'm going to show you on my Stam DK the secret for that side. So, behind the Piggy is another pathway. If you go down there and you've already done the flame area first, because you have to do the flame one before this, you will of course have your Firewalker buff. And if you heavy attack this, you can run across the lava. Otherwise, you cannot go here. You cannot get this buff without doing the flame round first. Obviously, we did the flame round last on the Sorc, but this is different. So you pick this up all the way through, and you probably guess what's going to happen. At the very end, we do have a shiny buff to pick up. Now, this one obviously is green. This represents stamina. So the blue ones is magic, the green ones are stamina, the red ones are health. On the way back, don't forget your buff. Run like hell. As soon as you pick the green one up, you get 5k stamina, and now you unlock the ability to see the rest of them. Now, they can be in some very random locations. Some of them are on mini bosses, like the secret ones. Some are on the regular bosses. Some are even hidden behind rocks and such. You might have to go above and beyond to find some of them, but sometimes you can get lucky. As you can see, we've already got 2 of them, because one ahead of us there. That gives us another 2k. Each one will give you 1k on top of the 5 that you get from the initial pickup. So this will help you as well with your damage and your survival, if you want to dodge roll and block and all that stuff a lot more, depending on what character you're on. Either way, the enemies scale, and so do you. Now, you go up to the next boss. You've got to kill the 3 lurchers, of course. We're going to skip ahead slightly from that bit because you don't need to see that fight again. But you go down this little alleyway here, this little hidden hideaway in the bushes. And you use your grapple. As you can see here, we've gone up to the top here. Now, if you've got the grapple already, yes, you can get here, but you can't go any further. However, like I said, if you've got this buff already, and you've got the Firewalker buff, we can continue. And over here is a secret boss. Now, just like the buffs, we can only have 2 different buffs at one time, depending on which path you take. Of course, that being the same for the secret bosses. You can only ever see 2 secret bosses per run, depending on which ways you go. Now, as you can see here, we have a rather unusual room with lots and lots and lots of platforms, taking full advantage of your grapple. Each of the secret bosses do utilize your main skill that you find in here. This boss is quite straightforward. He takes a while to fight, but he does frontal AoE that you need to stay out of. He has fire going around the ground that you need to stay out of, and he will jump from one platform to the other. So, to put it simply, don't stand in stupid, and whenever he teleports, then just grapple to wherever he is and continue to fight him. It doesn't get any more complicated than that. It's very straightforward. But again, depending on which order you've done this in, the boss can be stronger, so therefore it can take longer to kill him. He doesn't hit too hard. As long as you've got some basic heals and you maintain your buffs, you shouldn't be in too much trouble. But it's a bit long-winded. The mechanics are the same all the way through. Whether it's the first 10% or the last 10%, don't do anything stupid. Just keep chasing him, hit him, chase him, hit him, chase him, stay out stupid if you can help it. Most of his attacks you can actually block anyway, so you shouldn't be in too much trouble. But above all, if you do drop any heals or resistance buffs while standing in fire, of course you are going to feel that. Again, like I said at the beginning, I would recommend Ring of the Pale Order for pretty much everything in here, unless you've got some very strong heals, perhaps from Crit Surge on the Sorcerer, or you're spamming jabs, or the magical version of jabs on a Templar. Anything else, Pale Order just basically gives you just stupid survival just for doing damage. So I recommend that definitely in here, but you don't have to take it. This is probably one of the more simple mini bosses as far as their mechanics are concerned, but it is definitely the most annoying, the fact that you have to go backwards and forwards. But once he's dead, he's dead. And as you saw at the beginning of this fight, there is a secret in here too. It's not here all the time, but the orbs can spawn at the back of the room, so you can go pick it up there. You have to leave that way anyway to go get your chest, but there's a special stamina orb for us to give us some extra juice. Now, of course, you can see that our grapple does have a green effect to it now. So the blue area, the portals give us a pet. The red area, which I prompted in text, the buff will give us AoE damage if we heavy attack the orb. And the green area, the buff will interrupt when you teleport. That is very important for the Minotaur boss. Now back to the Sorc run. We are on the last boss. The arena is quite straightforward. Very big circle of concrete that you're standing on, with 4 major enemies around the outside and 3 major points of interest. Each point of interest represents one of the 3 paths that you took in the first place, and that will be shown in a moment once this room explodes. The boss is in the middle, very straightforward. She will do some weird yoga shit in the middle of the room that you need to avoid. Watch out for the big AoEs on the ground. Apart from that, of course, the most important thing to note is these skeletons around the room. Don't stand in a frontal AoE, of course, and kill the skeleton. The more damage you do to the boss, the more the skeletons are going to be interested in you. So you want to take them out individually. Go one after the other, after the other, after the other. In the meantime, you've got these oozy things in the middle of the room, little blobs of goo. Kill those too. They're not that stressful, but you don't want to keep them alive. The skeletons do hit quite hard, but you want to stay out of their face. They do a conal AoE in front of you. Make sure you, of course, stand out of it. Deal with the archers if and when you can. They do have a nasty heavy attack, so avoid that. But this is the most important point. If you go too ham on the boss, you're going to end up with loads of skeletons and this mechanic at the same time. This will happen throughout the fight. As you can see, there are multiple enemies that are walking towards you. You have to kill one, make a gap, and get out of it. If you don't get out of it, they'll close and close and close, and you would be stuck in the middle there, fighting them. And if you don't get out within 3 seconds of that getting to its peak, it will go boom and kill you. So your main focus is to kill at least one ad. Now, the rest of the fight is rinse repeat. Hit the boss, watch out for all of her stupid stuff on the ground, which is basically an AoE over and over and over with gaps in the middle. She will teleport to you if you go too far away, and she will do a frontal AoE, so be aware of that. Apart from that, if you're under her feet, it's quite straightforward. The danger is the ads, the danger is not the boss. Now, when she gets to around 10% health, even if she has prompted the phase with all the enemies walking towards you very slowly, she will disappear. And as you can see around the room, the 3 major points of interest are glowing. You need to pick which one to go to, because you can grapple to it to get safe before the room explodes. Now I'm going to push the boss not too far here because I want to show you the ad, because this is very important. It doesn't matter how much DPS you have overall, as long as you have enough to maintain one of those kills every single phase. If you can't, then you're dead. Now, when she's 10%, pick a grappling point. I will go to the far left first. This is the lightning type boss, the mage that you fought against Malcolm. So, make sure that you go around in a circle and watch your feet. Simple as that. He's going to do loads and loads of lightning stuff on the ground. Just stay out of it. If he channels, interrupt him. The rest of the time, keep hitting him. Now, the longer you're in here, the more health she will gain back. The boss is actually healing right now, so you don't want to stay in this realm too long. But once you kill it, there'll be a portal that will spawn and you can run back out again, and that will stop her healing. But since you've killed this boss, you will now have that mechanic in the room. So whichever grapple you choose, you are now forcing that mechanic into the room. So you choose which one suits you. I would say lightning first, because it's probably the easiest to manage. You just have to move out of it. Maintain your DPS on these skeletons as much as you can and avoid doing too much to the boss, because otherwise you're going to get multiples. And of course, when this phase comes in, you have to make sure you kill one and then get out. Yes, of course, you can streak through or teleport strike through it. Whether they fix that or not in the future, I don't know. I wouldn't encourage you to do it, because if you do, you're going to not teach yourself any mechanics. Make sure you can just maintain focus on one enemy. Yes, you can do it with very low DPS, because I've done it with a tank. Anyway, now that that mage is over with, you do have a mini mage in the room that you have to deal with, as well as the lightning, so watch your feet. When her health is low, look for the grapple point. You need to make sure you're ready for it. If there's no skeletons in the room, and there's no big circular AoE in the room with all the ads in it, all you have to do is keep moving your feet and hit her. She's not even hitting us right now. She's doing nothing. Get her down to 10%, go to the next grapple. As soon as it's available, off you go. Now, this is the middle one, so the second one to the right. Lightning first, then right to the next one. This is your Minotaur. Obviously, you remember this from the green arena. He will, of course, put nasty rocks on the ground that will slow you down and hurt. He'll punch you. He'll do all sorts of stuff like that. But he's not too bad. You are going to want to stay in a circle anyway to avoid the lightning, which you already have in the room from the last boss. And basically just stay out of his ground AoE so you don't keep getting snared. He doesn't hit that hard. Once he's dead, get to the portal. Remember, the longer you're in there, no problem, but she will heal. If you stay in there too long, she'll go back up to 100%. It's not a negative, really. You just have to maintain your mechanics and start again from scratch. But it's not the whole fight from scratch. It's just a health. So you'll have more skeletons. The more health she has, the more skeletons respawn. This is basic. Again, get your dots down. Focus one target. Make sure that you push one of these enemies down so you can find a gap. Then back onto the boss. Remember, you have to maintain your awareness of where you are position-wise, so you can look for that grapple when she goes low health. Otherwise, if the room booms when you're not off the middle, you will die. Deal with the small ads as much as possible. She can take as long as you like. Now the final one, the flame boss. This one's a pain in the ass. He does the spinny swirly mechanic. But he also brings in a flame shaper, which can kill you very, very quickly if you don't interrupt them. So they start channeling, interrupt them. He has the same mechanics as before, though. Breath, swirl, breath, then he'll heavy attack you. He won't have the ground stab because there's nothing to use in here to make that happen. As you can see, the Flame Shaper there does need interrupting. I am trying to survive in the corner because I can't really get near him because the fire is going to catch me. You can follow the fire around in a circle, or you can stay close, far away and avoid it completely. The choice is yours. Watch out for his heavy attacks, they're quite nasty, but his light ones aren't too bad as long as you can maintain some form of healing. Remember, of course, the breath is what you want to avoid. Now, we have to deal with Flame Shapers, Lightning, and Minotaur stuff on the ground. So just keep moving. The boss doesn't really hit you. She just has AoEs on the ground that you need to avoid. The ads must die if they're in the big ring, because remember, you've got to make a hole so you can get through. So at this stage, you've got to dodge the Lightning, stay out of the Minotaur juice, and interrupt Flame Shapers, while getting a gap in this circle here and killing the boss. Now, what I would highly recommend here, apart from not panic, is to understand that the mechanics will never change from here on out. What you saw at the beginning of the fight with the skeletons and the boss and the circle of enemies is always here. It's always the same. If you literally dissect these mechanics right now, it's exactly the same as the beginning of the fight. You have the addition of the mini-boss mechanics with the Lightning and the Minotaur stuff on the ground and the Flame Shaper that you must interrupt, or kill, or both. But the rest of the fight is exactly the same. At health percentages, the boss will bring in individual skeletons, or you can bring them in yourself and just get rid of them. Once they're gone, they're gone. The only time they come back is when she heals, and because we've got no more mini-bosses left, she can't heal anymore. So once you've got rid of all the ads in the room, apart from the ones that respawn, it's just you and her, and you can take as long as you like. Remember though, you must always get rid of one ad from the big swirly wall, otherwise you're dead. Now, as you can see there, I'm aiming at where the 4 skeletons are. If you are really experienced, you can literally just bring in all 4 skeletons at once and go for an area of effect nuke, but that's much, much more advanced. We don't need to cover that in this video. Maybe I'll post some of that on YouTube later, or maybe you've seen it in my live streams before. Anyway, hopefully that helped. Hopefully that wasn't too boring. Hopefully you now have a better understanding of how to approach these particular mechanics. It can be very, very tricky, of course. It's not easy the first time, but dissect those mechanics individually, learn them all as they are, and then put them all together at the end. Nothing changes in any fights. No execute is necessarily different, because their base mechanics are always there. It's not if you don't have enough deeps, you can't do it. The only DPS check in the entire arena is to make sure that you do kill those ads, one of them in fact, once they start walking in from the edges. So that's your key focus there. And again, like I said earlier, I've done it on a tank, so the check is extremely low. It's just that people's panic is high. So thank you very much for watching. I hugely appreciate support. If you are not subscribing, of course, please do hit that button. It is free. And of course, if you want to help support outside the channel, there are some links in the info section for Patreon, Twitter, Facebook, the website ZynoGaming.com, Instagram, and Twitch. And I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.